Preseason week number 1 in the books. Takeaways from all of the games aside from the Thursday games that we already talked about here, from all the Friday, Saturday, Sunday preseason week 1 NFL action coming up on Peacock and Williamson.
NFL analyst Brian Peacock and former NFL scout Matt Williamson bring you expert NFL analysis every day in less than 30 minutes. Get an inside look into the NFL on the field and in the front office. With elite breakdowns, next-level analysis, and in-depth information only for the real NFL fans. This is Peacock and Williamson, and it starts now.
Welcome to the Peacock and Williamson NFL show. Brian Peacock and Matt Williamson at BD Peacock at Williamson NFL. Thanks for making us your first listen here on the Locked On Podcast Network. Hope you like the new intro there. We are... have a little bit of a new look here. We're on some new streaming platforms, so that's very exciting. Maybe a little bit of a new look. Peacock and Williamson. It won't change much for any of you guys. We're going to bring the same stuff we have been bringing for a while now, so I'm excited for it. And I'm excited for some NFL football, Matt, getting to see some action, some new faces and new places on the field this weekend.
Absolutely. I think that's one of the most fun things makes you feel like a fan, like a little kid, like, ooh, I want to see what, the first overall pick looks like in this new uniform and how he moves around and how they use them and, what's his jersey look like on him. And then quickly you dig into, what's the usage and start to really have fun with this stuff. I will say, my Steeler responsibilities have kind of gotten away so far of watching other preseason games after Saturday. I was out super late doing the post-game show and whatnot. So I'm scrambling a little, but boy, there's a lot to take in. And looks like we avoided a couple big injuries too, which is big.
That is good news. I do want to remind everybody today's episode is brought to you by BetOnline. BetOnline has you covered this season with more props, odds, and lines than ever before. BetOnline, where the game starts. Matt, where we will start is Falcons and Lions. We're going to go through Friday, Saturday, and Sunday game action. Just, some quick notes on each of the games. And it was fun seeing guys like Desmond Ridder out there on the field and Drake London. And luckily, Drake London, it's one of those that I don't think it looks like a big injury. He had a 24-yard reception in this one and looks the part. And then he was out of the game very quickly.
Yeah, and certainly good news there. I mean, avoiding what could have been a big injury for London. I think he's going to be as productive as any rookie quarter or receiver in this draft. I mean, he's going to be featured from the start. They don't have much else outside of Pitts, who didn't play. Mariota looked fine. Ridder did some good things as well, which I think is encouraging. We're not asking for massive, big things here to transpire, but at least there's some good signs. And this Lions team is, a handful as well. I mean, they have some high quality players. They certainly play very hard. We saw a fair amount of St. Brown and Chark and Goff and Swift and all those guys. I have a feeling they're going to play their guys through most of the preseason.
It's pretty amazing how strikingly similar Desmond Ridder and Marcus Mariota look.
They really do.
All skinny, athletic guys can run around a little bit. Got to see Marcus Mariota with the touchdown run. Reminded everybody how athletic he is. Desmond Ridder, a lot of very short stuff. He only averaged 4.7 yards per pass on his 10 completions on 22 attempts for 103 yards, but a couple of touchdown passes. So I think good start, for young Desmond Ridder.
Yep, and you mentioned the Falcons' first-round pick. Aiden Hutchinson, I really focused in on in this game. He only played 10 snaps from what I'm reading here, but they were impressive ones. There was one or two where he kind of got fooled and got, a chip from a tight end or whatever he didn't see coming. But his impact was felt right away. They've been lining him up all over the formation. I never looked at Hutchinson, still don't, as a Chase Young, Myles Garrett-like prospect, but he's going to be a big impact guy for the Lions.
Yeah, different style of player, try-hard player, and, shot the gap and had tackle for loss early in that game. So good start there from the rookies on the Lions side as well. Kirby Joseph got in there, was a leading tackler on defense, played a ton of snaps as the third round safety pick there.
They were right at the top of the league last year in terms of rookie snaps. I would imagine they probably will be close to that again.
Not a great start in this Cleveland at Jacksonville Jaguars game for Deshaun Watson. 1 of 5 passing. They were chanting very nasty things at Deshaun Watson. Some of his teammates tried to act like they're going to have a chip on their shoulder now this year because they're going to get that from every opposing crowd. I don't know if that's the best reason to have a chip on your shoulder, like us against the world. I don't remember which offensive lineman it was that was talking about its offense. It's going to be us against the world this year because people will be chanting it at Deshaun Watson. I don't know. It's just a cloud over the organization. They won this game 24-13. Hey, but that was mostly Joshua Dobbs in there for a lot of this game. And Deshaun Watson, 1 of 5 passing. I saw some clips of him in camp, and you just forget how good he was because it's been so long since he's played. But still that suspension is looming. That's the big story, obviously, with the Cleveland Browns.
Right. I mean, he was 1 of 5 for 7 yards. He better get used to the heckling and the attention and negative manner. And if that's a binding agent for the Browns, that's great, but he probably won't be on the field as they bind, so
right.
We'll see how that goes. I'm familiar with Dobbs from his Steeler days. He's a 3 at best, but I thought he played efficiently in this game. Smart guy. Who was the guy I wanted to mention here? Lawrence was good. I mean, Lawrence made a throw or two, but didn't play a ton either. I mean, he threw 12 passes. I mean, that's fine. A couple of them were very nice, though. But ATN is really encouraging. I mean, I know Robinson's looming out there, and obviously this is a fantasy nugget, but ATN looks 100% healthy and pretty exciting.
Yeah, ATN out there looking like RB1, looking quick. I mean, he didn't have a great stat line, 9 of 23, 2.6 yards per carry. He had a 10-yard reception as well. But just seeing him healthy and out there on the field and seeing some of the usage, that's going to be fun watching young Trevor Lawrence, young Travis Etienne in that Jacksonville Jaguars offense this season. All right, we are moving along here with the rest of the slate for the Friday games of NFL action. We could go to those San Francisco 49ers next, Matt, because they beat the Packers 28-21, but the real score here was Trey Lance. He is the starter, the unquestioned starter for the San Francisco 49ers. Jimmy Garoppolo not suiting up, doesn't even have the playbook. We'll find out what happens there. This is Trey Lance's team, and he passed the first test. It was nice, 4 of 5 passing. He had a perfect quarterback rating, had the long touchdown pass to the speedy rookie in Danny Gray, a 76-yarder for a touchdown. So he passed the first test.
Yeah, and I watched a lot of this one. Lance versus Love is about as good as it gets in the preseason, to be honest with you. I mean, for as many snaps as those guys were out there. So that's encouraging. I like the Trey Sermon pick a million years ago. It seems like, I know it's just been one, and it feels like his career's already been shot. But I thought he was a little bit encouraging as well. You mentioned Gray. He's unbelievably fast, but I liked how Lance played in this game quite a bit. I don't know what to think about Jordan Love anymore. There's some ability there. He put up good numbers. He threw 3 picks. I didn't really know if any of them were his fault, though. I mean, everyone's going to harp on the 3 picks, I'm sure, but he didn't get much help from his receivers, which makes me think, how much help is Rodgers going to get? Of course, Rodgers will escalate them much more than Love does, but that whole Love situation is just odd to me with them.
It is a strange situation. Yeah. He was targeting Romeo Doubs, the rookie, who's actually,
he looks good.
Yeah, and it was Christian Watson was the higher pick, and that's the one everyone expected to be the guy as a rookie this year. But Romeo Doubs has been, and I don't know if it's Dobbs or Dubs. They were calling him Dobbs on during the game. I thought it was Dubs.
I've heard 50-50 since he was a draft prospect.
Yeah, exactly. But he was targeted a lot. It looked pretty good in the game, but he got a ball taken away by a fellow rookie on the other side, the 5th rounder that's in a competition for the 49ers. Samuel Womack took a ball away from him. But he did have a long touchdown reception as well, 33-yarder. So, good start, and he was targeted a lot. He was like the preseason number 1. So look out for Romeo Dobbs, however you want to pronounce it, in your DFS leagues if you are a degenerate in those preseason games.
That's a great point. I mean, it's 7 targets compared to everyone else at 3 or less. I mean, I think that's clearly by design, and I think they're counting on him for some week 1 production. Yeah, he's a preseason DFS darling.
Baker Mayfield making his first appearance for the Carolina Panthers. 23-21 Panthers beat the Washington Commanders. So we had new look veteran quarterbacks on both sides with Baker Mayfield, who is winning the competition. He got the start already in preseason week 1. He's going to win that job. He's going to be the starter over Sam Darnold for the Carolina Panthers. And then Carson Wentz, 10 of 13 passing on the other side.
And both of them were efficient. You know, we saw a fair amount of the combination of Wentz and Mayfield, and I don't expect them to look like Montana and Marino, but in this environment, they should thrive. I thought both did. I also thought I watched the end with Sam Howell too. I never understood why Howell fell. I'd like to find out more about that. He looked more like a second or third round pick to me, and I still think he has a chance to be a big time, not maybe a big time backup, but a contributor. Dotson played a lot. Speaking of first round picks, I mean, McLaurin played more than I expected, which I'm not sure why, to be very honest with you. Maybe it's just new quarterback combination, but fair amount of changes on these teams. And again, I think the quarterbacks are in a decent spot all in all.
I think so. Yeah. I think that's a good way to put it. In a decent spot, kind of a wait and see there. Sam Howell. I liked what I saw from Sam Howell. Like, he was a fifth rounder and Kenny Pickett was a first rounder. I don't know if there was that much separation between those guys.
Right.
One name I do want to point out in this game was Shi Smith, the second-year wide receiver out of South Carolina for the Carolina Panthers. He was kind of like what Romeo Doubs was for the Green Bay Packers, and he was targeted early and often in this game, getting open, some quickness. I like what I saw there. And there's some receiving weapons. You know, obviously, you got DJ Moore, you got Robbie Anderson, you got the second-round pick from last year as well in Terrence Marshall for the Carolina Panthers. They've got some talent at receiver. So if they got this thing figured out at quarterback, and they got a lot of talent on defense, like, people are sleeping on the Panthers maybe because I think Baker Mayfield's going to give them a spark.
I feel that way. I mean, there isn't an O-line that got better, more rapidly than the Panthers this offseason. And, Shi Smith's down the line, but I'm glad you mentioned him because he's a quick slot, productive player that I think any team in the league would love to have. If you get McCaffrey healthy and better quarterback play, which are almost bound to happen, I like the defense a lot. I mean, no defense was hurt more by the offense last year than Carolina's. So contender might be a strong word, but I think they're around 500.
Colts, Bills, Seahawks, Steelers, Dolphins, Bucks coming up from the Friday action. And Saints, Texans as well, Cowboys, Broncos. We got Rams, Chargers. And finishing up for Sunday's game was the Vikings and Raiders. We got some notes on all those games coming up here on Peacock and Williamson. Everyone out there has had times when life threw them a curveball, right? And if you didn't have someone to help talk you through it, it could have been a really, really dark moment in your life. It could have been really difficult. Sometimes you just need someone to talk to, maybe once a week, to help you through whatever you're doing. Make sure you're hitting your checkpoints in your life. Life is so full of those twists and turns, and it's important to show up for yourself through it all. And that's why BetterHelp exists. BetterHelp online therapy will assess your needs and can match you with your own licensed professional therapist in less than 48 hours. It's really simple. I've gone through the process. All you do is answer a few questions, and they match you with the therapist to help you out with what you need in your life. And that's what's really important. Sometimes take care of what you need. And it's affordable, more affordable than traditional offline therapy, and financial aid is available as well. You can log in to your account anytime, send messages, however you like to do it, however like you want to do therapy. You can do it over text, email, obviously video conferencing as well is very popular way to do it. You can schedule weekly phone video sessions, so you don't have to be on camera if you don't want to. Getting therapy every week is as easy as a few clicks on your laptop or your phone. And sometimes with therapy, it can take a few tries. So if the first therapist isn't the right fit for you, BetterHelp makes it easy and free of charge to change therapists if needed. And they have a special offer for our listeners. Get 10% off your first month at betterhelp.com/lockedon. That's 10% off your first month of online therapy at betterhelp.com/lockedon. Thanks again, everybody, for making Peacock and Williamson your first listen. For your second listen, make sure you're checking out everything else going on the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team is covered daily, including I'm doing Locked On 49ers as well. If you're not a 49ers fan, that's okay. If you're a Dino Leaguer, Locked On Dynasty Football, Matt Williamson co-hosting that one as well. All right, we're moving on to the Colts and the Bills from Friday's preseason action. 27-24, the Buffalo Bills defeated the Indianapolis Colts, but that wasn't the important part. The important part here, I think, was for the Bills not having Josh Allen out there so he doesn't get hurt, and for the Colts just to put Matt Ryan out there for a couple snaps so he can get used to his new surroundings and his new teammates.
Yeah, I mean, with these teams that are expected to win their division or right in the hunt in the South, or should be playoff caliber teams, I was just focusing on a couple younger guys that I think that these teams are kind of counting on to fill some gaps. And Bernard Raymond, the left tackle's another guy I thought got drafted a little too late. Doesn't have great arm length. He's a little older, but he had a tough outing here. I mean, I think he's a pivotal guy that if he can grab that left tackle spot as a rookie would go a real long way. Cook, the running back for the Bills, did very, very little. But Shakir, I think that's a guy both of us like, kind of in that Shi Smith mold, one of these young guys that might be a year away from really being like fantasy relevant or whatever, but he was really, really good. And then the defensive lineman from last year, Boogie Basham, was a wrecking machine sometimes against Raymond.
And one of the big things I'm watching is James Cook. Is he going to be that valuable for fantasy leagues? Because I think he's going to be a gadgety receiving type of a back and not ever a full-time. So
you don't see 75% of Kamara.
No.
Okay. James White.
Right. And I think he was overdrafted because of that. I think he's overdrafted in a lot of fantasy leagues. But you mentioned Shakir and really interesting to me. And, like some of the other rookies, like Shi Smith, like Romeo Doubs, like some other players we're going to talk about here. Once preseason is over and they're not featured anymore, they're going to disappear because they're too deep on the depth chart, but they have the talent. If they get the targets, then they could be an asset for you. So guys like Shakir, target those in your dynasty league. I don't know about the redraft leagues though.
Right. I think that's a really interesting way of talking about it is we like them coming out of school. They go mid-round pick, tear up preseason, good camp reports. Then you don't hear from them. Maybe they get an injury and end up in the lineup in week 12 or whatever. But meanwhile, they've been scout teaming a whole lot. But think about them the next year when some other hot rookie is getting someone else's attention. Don't forget about the Shakirs and Shi Smiths of the world,
And on the Colts side, you get reminded about Nyheim Hines, and he could be your second leading rusher and second leading receiver on that Colts roster after Jonathan Taylor and Michael Pittman, because there's no clear targets otherwise. So another sneaky player to target in your fantasy leagues, just based on the usage here, because when the starters are out, it's the Nyheim Hines show.
So I mean to bring this up to you for the last month or so, because every report out of Colts camp is they adore Nyheim Hines. Matt Ryan throws the backs like crazy. He's going to catch a million balls. He's going to be a huge part of this offense, and he's very, very good at what he does. Does it scare you a little bit if you're the first overall pick in fantasy on Taylor?
No, it makes you feel good that he's not going to get run into the ground, and he's going to have just enough off of his plate to where he might stay healthy through a full season. So there's enough to go around, especially in this day and age, because Jonathan Taylor's going to get his, especially compared to other running backs in the league where there's full-on committees on 20 of the 32 teams.
I just think Taylor's reception total will probably dip.
It could a little bit.
I don't know if that matters enough, but yeah,
not enough to matter, probably. But that is why some people like Christian McCaffrey a little bit more, just because he's the guy in every way possible if he's healthy, which is a big if. Nick Foles, Nick Foles in a new uniform there with the Indianapolis Colts. Well, no. Seahawks Steelers, no doubt a game that you watched a lot of, Matt. And if you guys can tell, he's at Latrobe, PA, in his hotel room currently. If you're watching us on the YouTube channel, by the way, subscribe to the Locked On NFL YouTube channel. That is the home of Peacock and Williamson as well. So tell us about young Kenny Pickett, George Pickens. He just picked up where he left off in college, bullying defensive backs and making big catches.
I'm unbelievably biased in this equation, of course, but this is about as good and entertaining of a preseason game as you're going to see, because first of all, both these teams have things to work out. They're going to play their top offensive lines. They have some, especially the Steelers, have some stars that are clearly going to sit, the DK Metcalfs, the Cam Haywards. But most importantly, though, was the only quarterbacks that played in this game were Geno Smith, Drew Lock, Pickett, Rudolph, and Trubisky, which none of them are going to the Hall of Fame. Don't get me wrong. But if we're talking about just preseason football, you had 5 NFL quarterbacks take every snap. So there was a level of competency on every snap. There wasn't a quarterback lining up behind a guard, or, you know what I mean? Like, the fourth quarter wasn't a disaster. It's Drew Lock versus Pickett, and it ended up coming down to the wire, and Pickett made a big play, and, it was a fun game to watch, especially for me. I'm not going to get too far in the weeds, but I thought all 3 Steelers quarterbacks performed well. You mentioned Pickens, George Pickens. He is a total star in the making, and I don't just say that because he's a Steeler. It's not too late to overbuy him in dynasty leagues. He is going to be a superstar. And again, really fun game to watch. We saw some flashes from Kenneth Walker and a couple of these guys too. That I watched Cross, the left tackle, quite a bit. He was very impressive. So some of the young guys Seattle's counting on played well too.
A little tease for tomorrow. We don't have time to get into it, but a proposed trade that I want to talk about on our Twitter Tuesday episode with the Pittsburgh Steelers and potentially moving around some wide receivers, clearing a path for the young George Pickens.
I have some ideas. Yeah.
Pickett to Pickens could be something in the future. Kenny Pickett, I mean, there's got to be fans clamoring for him to start. Just after seeing that, it was like, well, he looks like an NFL quarterback. What are we doing screwing around with Trubisky and Rudolph?
Yeah, I mean, Rudolph was booed, which isn't cool, but they just don't want him in the way at all. I get a tweet every day or a call every day. Why is he still on the team? Trade him. You're not going to give him away for a 7th-round pick. He's a solid backup quarterback, and he's the most knowledgeable in the system. But there was a lot of emotion and excitement for Pickett, and all the Pitt guys who play in that stadium were all there. They honored Pitt winning the ACC last year. So there's a whole section of, blue and yellow cheering for their buddy. And obviously he's the hometown favorite, and he played very well. But this was much better than he's played in practices.
Okay. That's the insight. That's why we have Matt Williamson embedded in Latrobe, PA, in the training camp. Just real quick on the Seahawks side, I liked what I saw from rookie running back Kenneth Walker. Showing some athleticism in space on an 11-yard reception. But really, it's the battle at quarterback. And I don't know if there is a winner here if you're a Seahawks fan between Geno Smith and Drew Lock. They split 30 attempts evenly, 11 of 15 for Drew Lock, 10 of 15 for Geno Smith. Geno Smith, no touchdowns, no interceptions, a couple of touchdown passes from Drew Lock. So the stat line looks a lot better, but you watched more of this game than I did. And I sort of passed on it because I knew you'd be watching it in depth. Was there a winner? Was there a clear winner here from Lock and Smith in that quarterback competition?
The Seahawk running game was the winner.
Okay.
And unfortunately, they're probably not going to be in close games to lean on a running game. I envision this team to be very bad this year. I also think Geno will start the season and go from there.
Dolphins 26, Buccaneers 24. No Tom Brady. He is having some family time, which meant it was Kyle Trask, the Kyle Trask show. Blaine Gabbert getting in there for 5 attempts. He was 5 of 5 actually, but Kyle Trask, I've kind of forgot about him, and he was somewhat highly drafted. 25 of 33 passing. He almost got a full game's workload here. Did Kyle Trask? Is he a long-term backup? Is he a potential starter post-Brady for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers?
It's intriguing. I mean, Blaine Gabbert's kind of the Mason Rudolph there. Like, at least get past him so you're the 2 on game day, and then maybe you're a clearer path to being the successor. I mean, I'm not comparing Trubisky to Brady. Sorry, folks. I didn't mean to go down that aisle at all. But the ball came out very quickly, and what's amazing about Brady is he had one of the highest average depth of targets in the league, but the ball came out of his hands faster than anyone besides the corpse of Ben Roethlisberger last year, basically. So it looks like Trask is catching on to that style of play, very decisive. He threw a pick that I didn't think was his fault, so I think that's encouraging. I mean, there's no question about that. I don't know if you and I have ever talked about Skylar Thompson, the Dolphins quarterback.
No, but he played the whole game. Tua was supposed to play in this one, and then I guess last minute they decided that wasn't a good idea, and he ended up sitting. So Skylar Thompson, he got the full game. It was Skylar Thompson and Kyle Trask out there almost the entire game, and I think both of them looked okay in their different ways. Yeah,
and I think both of them might have a future in this league. And I didn't know who Skylar Thompson was until a couple weeks before the draft when Matt Waldman's RSP came out. One of the other great M-dubs in this business. And he adored Thompson. So I started really studying him. And they may have stolen a quality quarterback at the end of the draft. He's not the biggest. He's, a good athlete. He's 20 for 28 for 200 yards. I mean, I just want to make sure everyone knows that name. His name may surface again in a year or two.
Skylar Thompson, mark it down. You can bet on just about anything in the NFL season already at betonline.net. They've got weekly lines, not only for preseason games, but week 1 and all the way through week 16 of the season, just not 17 and 18. So you can bet on almost every game of the NFL season already at BetOnline. Super Bowl futures, rookies of the year, defensive players of the year, coaches of the year, which coaches will be fired. Endless amount of ways to bet on the NFL already, even though the season hasn't even started at betonline.net, the fastest and easiest way to check in on all of your betting needs. Find all your favorite sports, not just the NFL, at the number one online source for odds, lines, and games, including Major League Baseball, NBA, NHL, combat sports, esports, golf, live in-game betting. BetOnline continues to be the top online resource, not just for sports wagering, but information as well as scores. So get over to BetOnline today. Use your mobile device to learn more about the trends in action at BetOnline, where the game starts. Okay, man, moving on here, fast and furious through the rest of the preseason schedule. Saints at Texans. Texans 17, Saints 13 in this one. And the big takeaway for me is not a lot, because
yeah, I'd have a tough time with this one too.
One of the snoozers of the games, the direction I go immediately is obviously rookies in a lot of these, or veterans that have changed places and changed teams. We didn't get to see a lot of those guys on the Saints side. They sat a lot of folks, but rookie running back Dameon Pierce for the Houston Texans. He's in line to just be the guy. And from all reports, he's won the competition at camp, but he's still a rookie and he might have to play behind some people, but 5 carries for 49 yards, almost 10 yards per carry. He looks the part. He's winning the job. So whether it's sooner or later, he's going to have the job for the Texans.
I think so. I mean, I own him in like every dynasty league I can. I mean, I've gotten him 4 or 5 picks earlier than he should go. And a lot of it's because I just really like his style of play. I think he fits what they want to do on early downs. Maybe he can bring more than that. But the competition there is terrible, so he should be able to grab that job. I thought Houston treated Davis Mills like a long-time starting quarterback. Get him out there, get him out, get him in the shower as quick as possible. Do a series, fine, no big deal. And Pierce, we want to see more. Show us you can protect, you can get yards after contact. He did all those things. And you're right. I mean, the Saints kind of went through the motions a little bit in terms of who they played. But I was watching Trevor Penning a fair amount. I didn't love him coming out of school. I don't love that he gets kicked out of every practice. I think I don't call him like a blowhard, but I mean, it seems like there's just more smoke than fire with this guy. And he didn't play great in this one either. Yeah,
a little overextending. Grab you, so you worry there's going to be a lot of penalties there. And it looks good sometimes. You get these highlight, the Senior Bowl, there was a ton of it, highlight reps where you're pancaking guys, throwing guys to the ground. But in the NFL, when you start playing dudes, you're not going to be able to do that as much. And so if you're not pulling people, then what's left of your game? Are you going to be a technician, or are you just going to keep your quarterback clean? Because that's what you have to do at the end of the day.
Yeah, I mean, he had great combine numbers. He has great size. He has all this tenacity. You mentioned everyone watching the Senior Bowl going, oh, he's a small school kid that's throwing people around. That never happens in the league. His hands are real wide. He's real grabby. So I would worry about him if he's a day one starter, which I don't know if he will be or not.
And the other rookie first rounder, Chris Olave, 1 catch for 4 yards in and out of the game.
Yeah, shut him down, get out. I mean, they know what they got in him.
Cowboys and Broncos, 17-7 Broncos over the Cowboys in this football game. We saw no Dak. We saw no Russell Wilson. We saw a lot of Josh Johnson, who, man, when you see his journey through the NFL and the XFL, and I think he might have played in both XFLs. I can't remember.
Every league ever created. I think he played in the original USFL in 1985, too.
It's amazing. He's been on the 49ers roster 3 different times.
Wow.
And he's just still going. It's awesome. And preseason superstar here in this one, 16 of 23 with a couple of touchdown passes for the Broncos.
But as much as anyone, this team sat everyone. I mean, like Albert O was the only offensive guy of note that really might catch passes or touch the ball in the regular season that played any kind of substantial amount of the snaps. Wilson didn't play at all. The backs didn't play at all. Top receivers didn't play at all. So, I mean, I don't have much to take away from this one. Dallas wasn't much different. We know that they're really lean at the receiver position already. I mean, Dak wasn't going to play. No way are they playing Pollard or Zeke. They're not going to put Tyron Smith or Zach Martin out there. So I don't mean just brush over this game, but there's not much to really take away from this one.
I got one for you. And he's the leading tackler for the Denver Broncos defense. Jamar Johnson's a player I really like coming out of the draft last year out of Indiana. And he's been kind of buried on the depth chart. Got to play a lot in this game as a safety, 5th-round pick last year. I think he's a starting caliber player if he ever gets that opportunity somewhere. So
Good
kind of
name.
buried on the Broncos roster because they've had a lot of good defensive backs. Jamar Johnson, there. That's my note for that.
He could be that defensive version of Shakir or Shi Smith or whatever, where 2 good preseasons and then he's in the game and people start picking on him and they pay for it because he's a quality player, that type of thing.
Absolutely. Rams Chargers 29-22. Rams are another one of those teams that don't
Rams
play.
are the worst preseason eval in the world.
So kind of I tuned into this game for a little bit and talk about a guy who's been around for a while, Chase Daniel. You see him in the games, like, all right, we're in the Chase Daniel portion of this game already, so I don't know if I should already just turn it off and not even try because I didn't get to catch much of it. But
they don't even play Kyron Williams and Tutu Atwell because they're too valuable. You get Jake Funk and JJ Koski and Landon Akers, that's not even the Akers we want to see out there. They don't play anybody.
Jake Funk, he had some helium last offseason because he did. Preseason kind of disappeared once the season started. Isaiah Spiller, though, on the other side, that was the name to watch. He did get 10 carries featured there. He's got a great opportunity to be RB2 in that offense. 10 carries for 34 yards, and it's his work as a receiver. He had 1 catch, 10 yards that could make him valuable as an every down spell back for Austin Eckler. I think is the way it will go because I think they're both sort of 3 down type of backs the way they get treated. So I think we'll see Spillers be more of a spell than like he has one certain role where he's on a certain down. Yeah,
Fantasy, you hope he's not the goal line back. I'm sure I know they've been wanting to cut back Eckler's touches and give him more quality touches. I think Spiller's finally that guy instead of Kelly, Jackson, Roundtree. They've been looking and looking. I think Spiller's an upgrade over all those. And then my only other Chargers note was, right tackles unsettled for them. Trey Pipkin, Storm Norton. They both played a fair amount. Neither one distinguished themselves, good or bad. That's really the only spot that's up for grabs anymore.
That's an all-time preseason name battle too. Trey
Pipkins or Storm Norton.
Storm Norton. Yeah.
Nobody gets
battle there. All right. Let's finish this up. The last game on the slate that we have not yet covered, already the second preseason game for the Raiders since they played in the Hall of Fame game somewhat. Still haven't seen Derek Carr and Devontae Adams there for the Las Vegas Raiders. They did win this one though against the Minnesota Vikings 26-20.
Yeah, and this is a game I have not seen a ton of, unfortunately. I will go back and check it out. I like what I've seen so far, and this goes back to the preseason eval and the Hall of Fame game and a couple clips from this game. I think Zamir White's going to be a pretty darn good player, a quality starting back, maybe by midseason, but probably by next year. I'm almost certain that Jacobs is not in the long-term, plan here. We even mentioned he could be one of many backs on the move, when we talked on Friday. And all in all, I didn't see a ton from, either one of these guys or either one of these teams in terms of playing the guys we want to see. Kellen Mond played a fair amount, though, and I thought he was good. Mond and Trask I'll always loop together, because everyone talked about what an amazing, 5 guys last year, and then Mills came on strong, but everyone kind of forgot about Mond and Trask. And the guys ahead of them aren't going to be there forever. So, their stories to me are still interesting.
Yeah, and the way that even the coaching staff publicly didn't really speak well of Kellen Mond last year as a rookie.
No, they did not.
It's a new coaching staff now, so it wasn't a bad appearance at all in his first preseason game in year number 2, and you expect to be a big jump in year 2 for these young quarterbacks. Kellen Mond, 9 of 14 passing, 119 yards, a couple of touchdown passes, 130.7 rating. So he passed that test at least, and statistically he was better than Sean Mannion. So maybe there is still something there. And I think a lot of people thought that Kellen Mond was raw and had sort of an odd release, but good arm and athletic and all of those things. So we'll see. Maybe there's still something there for Kellen Mond after a really rough rookie year.
Last thing I really have here is along those lines is I'm almost certain, I don't know this 100%, totally put my reputation on it, but I'm almost certain that this coaching staff likes Kellen Mond more than last coaching staff, which is odd since the last coaching staff drafted him and this one didn't, but I'm almost certain of that.
Yeah, that never happens. Usually it's
never happens, right.
The old coaching staff liked the guy, they drafted him, they believed in him, new coaching staff doesn't care, and it turns out
why'd they draft this guy?
Hated him, yeah.
Right, that was an odd situation.
My last note on this game and on this week is Ty Chandler, the rookie running back for the Minnesota Vikings, and I picked him up post-draft. He didn't get drafted in our Locked On Dynasty league, even though it's a pretty deep league. But I picked him up, and Dalvin Cook got hurt one day, hurt his hand or something in training camp. Turned out not to be a big deal. But Dalvin Cook has, some extensive injury history. And this is the reason why you wait on running backs in the NFL draft, because North Carolina running back Ty Chandler was drafted in the 5th round, pick 169 overall. And the dude will start games in the NFL at some point. Not also this year, but he looked good out there. 10 yards a carry, 5 catches for 50 or 5 rushes for 50 yards. And you can find starting players at that position in the 5th round and later. So stop drafting guys so early.
I'm glad you mentioned that. Nwangu's also in that mix. He's kind of last year's version. I like Chandler better as an every down type of back.
Yeah, Nwangu's got that. He's a special teams guy, kick returner. He's like just really fast, but he's a little bit more locked up in the hips, where Ty Chandler's got some size and could give you a little bit more every down usage, I think. But solid backups too. You probably be a 2-headed monster if and obviously Madison's there as well. So they've got a lot of depth at running back suddenly in Minnesota.
But Madison is a free agent after the year. I mean, he's going to want a different gig. I'm sure Chandler will be the 2 next year,
Yep, absolutely. And when you're the 2 in the NFL, you're 1 play away from being the 1.
You'll be out there at some point.
Fantastic. Thanks, everybody, for making Peacock and Williamson your first listen. For your second listen, check out Vinny Iyer and the Locked On Fantasy Football Program. Find the intellectual fantasy expert Vinny Iyer brings 20 years of experience in the NFL and a unique angle to give you the moves no one else has. Get ready for those fantasy drafts with Locked On Fantasy Football. Get ready for your dynasty leagues with Locked On Dynasty Football, featuring the one and only Matt Williamson. And Matt and I will be back tomorrow. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the program on all those new streaming platforms as well.
Spread the word.
Yeah, spread the word and subscribe to Peacock and Williamson.